fitness genetic profiles, but they tell you about your muscle physiology and sort of your dietary sort of patterns. And it was exactly what I already knew. I mean, slow twitch, easy fatigue, no speed, heavy lifting, no problem.
I'm about the same.
And then it just, so when I used to play football as a kid, it was interesting because I was incredibly quick for the first 2/3 of a second. And then if I hadn't done anything in that initial moment, the play would just pass me by. I was too slow.
Right. So do you think that genetic testing for fitness and nutrition, do you think it's actually accurate? Like, can you really claim stuff?
I can't recommend it as a physician, right? There's not enough data on it to really say that yet, but I can say that it was remarkably descriptive of what I believed already about my own diet and muscle function. I mean, it just confirmed everything I knew. It's when I gave up on trying other kinds of fitness activities. I was like, oh, well, this is why I always drift back to this one thing. I knew it already.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. My dad was a huge swimmer. He would swim he's kind of. We're in my family. We're all kind of nuts about that stuff.
Tell me more. Tell me more.
We're all very obsessive, and we have sort of an addictive personality. So he would swim. He'd get up at 5 a.m. and he'd swim. I don't know how much he would swim, but it was for an hour at least, an excessive amount. But he blew out his shoulders, so he had to get rotator cuff surgery.
Yeah, my shoulders were messed too. Yep. Yeah. And I'm avoiding it. I'm putting it off as long as possible.
Yeah. Yeah. It still affects him. I think it was probably 15 years ago now, but he can't swim anymore. And but he just does pull-ups, and he's 73 now. He does pull-ups.
But the fact that he can do pull-ups, that's the worst. That's the tough. My shoulders cannot do that anymore.
Yeah. He's very traditional. He'll crank out 300 pull-ups in the morning.
Oh my god!
And then
traditional.
And he'll do renegade rows. Yeah, I don't know if traditional is the right word. He's like
military traditional.
Right. From the 50s.
Yeah.
Straight pull-ups. I'm not changing my workout at all. I'm doing renegade rows and pull-ups nonstop.
Posing like this. With a mustache. Handlebar mustache.
Yeah. Cool. I'll just kick it off. What's up, Stokers of Stoke Nation? This is Chad Kroger coming in with the Going Deep Chad and JT podcast. Guys, before we begin, I'll remind you once again that we are brought to you by Manscaped. Manscaped, thank you so much for keeping our trims pubed, for looking after our hogs, for making sure that our dongs are looking fresh and clean, because we may be in the Q team, but that does not mean that personal hygiene should be left out. So make sure you're taking care of yourselves upstairs and downstairs. And use code GODEEPWW at manscaped.com. I'm here with my compadre, John Thomas. What up?
Boom, clap, Stokers.
And we're here with our guest, Dr. Drew of TV medicine. We've been on Fox with you. We're stoked to have this new relation with you. Thank you for coming on.
It's my pleasure. What up, Stokers?
Dr. Drew, you've done a lot of TV. Have you done Ellen?
I have done Ellen. And I've you want me to talk about it?
Yeah, maybe. I mean,
because I hate the be the piling on kind of thing. I think it's I think it's so unfair to her. I mean, let's just the answer is yes, I experienced some of what's being reported over there. I don't want to get into details because I don't want to pile on, but I feel bad for her. I mean, she's doing a talk show like that every day is incredibly stressful. And I could just imagine that she just would want to stay laser focused and not think about anything else, and maybe made the EPs crazy. She may have been unloading her anxiety on them, and then it trickled down. But it's really the executive producers that are responsible for all this stuff. It's not the host, to be fair. Right. And I don't know to what extent she herself was responsible for stuff. I do remember one time, I did her show a few times. And one time I was sitting across from her and I thought, oh my God, she seems so depressed to me. I felt so bad for her. And then the next time she was fine. So My position on the whole thing is plenty of reports coming in. They need to take care of their work environment. I'm not sure they should be blaming the host of a TV show just because her name's on it. I get it, but there are other people managing the work environment, and it's not her.
Yeah. We were on Ellen last year, and we had a really pleasant experience. But you could see how it seemed to us like a very well-oiled machine.
Tightly run ship.
Yeah.
Probably the best run operation of any media experience.
And you could see how that could get too tight for some people, right?
You could feel the anxiety.
Right. And I get that. I get it. But we'll see. A lot of it is so far sort of vague anecdotes, right? Vague, like I wasn't treated right. I don't like how they treated me. I don't know what that is yet. We'll see.
But Chad said something hilarious about how they have the best lighting. He's like,
well, I was like, because we wanted to go back on, because their lighting is so good. I was like, honestly, I've never looked better than on the Ellen show.
As you're getting older, you want to go back in their lighting. That's so damn fun.
But I was like, look, if Kelly Clarkson takes over, she might hire the grip guy, the lighting guys.
The lighting director. Lighting director.
Yeah. We just hope the lighting director doesn't take a huge hit because he was phenomenal.
But then I guess I was wondering too, do you think that in your experience with all the television and radio you've done, which I have to tell you too, Loveline was my go-to growing up. It actually helped me a lot discover that I had a porn addiction and helped me with a lot of my intimacy issues and kind of drove me into going to therapy, which has become
nice. That's always good when it does that.
Yeah, it's like a lifelong love affair now. I've 2 therapists now. But I was wondering, with all your experience in media, do you think to have the best lighting or to have the best run organization, that anxiety and maybe overdoing it is a byproduct of that?
Well, that's a really interesting question. In general principles, I believe that you should be able to figure out ways to run a healthier work environment. But as a matter of experience, in TV, when there's a lot of heightened perfectionism and stuff like that, it does tend to make a better product. It does.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I used to work in production, and it broke me, that pressure. I started taking Adderall to compensate, and which actually I thought helped me in the short term, but was robbing from Peter to pay Paul in the long run. Yeah. And the best ADs were the ball busters.
Yeah.
The aggressive.
Yeah.
Driving a hard ship kind of people. And
what did you work on?
I worked on like different like kind of niche comedy series as like a PA and locations manager. And then I worked on a movie or two that were like Christian films. But by and large, the energy was the same on all of them. It's a really kind of hard line of work.
Yeah, there's a lot of get there before the sun comes up and go home with your lights on, your headlights on too.
Yeah,
and never complain. And it's one of the best explorations of the whole phenomenon of that stuff is that show Unreal. You ever see that show?
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
Go for Rachel. So I have a question for you guys. So I think people think, when you do your thing at city council meetings and whatnot, that you guys are stoners, but I don't think you are. You're ragers, right? And you're a surfer.
Correct. Yeah. I people have always thought I was a huge stoner, and I just didn't really respond well to weed.
Me neither. Me neither.
Yeah.
I just don't like it. And that's why by the way, my patrons were saying they loved it, I was like, oh my God, well, that's different. I can't even relate. There's some different biology going on there.
Yeah, I just and I think my whole family had there was a period in time in high school where I really wanted to be a stoner, there's this guy Trevor who ripped bong loads nonstop, and I was like, that guy is the man.
He's cool.
And so I was like,
they really are cool. Yeah.
Yeah. So
was this San Clemente High? Where was this?
Actually, I went to a boarding school.
Where?
In Connecticut.
Choate? Where'd you go?
Hotchkiss.
You went to Hotchkiss.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's hysterical.
I got into Choate though.
They're not far off from how come you came back out of here for college? You should have gone to Amherst College like me. That's where all the Hotchkiss and Choate guys go.
Yeah, no, I got out to Connecticut and I was like, I thought it'd be because my brother worked in finance in New York, and I was like, East Coast, like those guys, they're preppy. It's like cool. And then I got there, and I was like, oh no, California is where it's at. So I was like hell bent. I only applied to California colleges. Actually, I got into University of Montana, but I went to Santa Clara. I just want to come back.
Interesting about my story, if you had spoken to me at age 14, maybe even 15, I
Mm-hmm.
would have said, I'm going to be Chad.
Really?
100%. But I ended up going to college in New England. It's sort of,
Yeah.
everything changed. But I was well on track to be Chad.
Yeah. I think, I could have been, my dad's a surgeon, and he was pushing me to be in medicine, and I could have been Dr. Drew. But I think
we changed places. This is a film, friend. This is a film. This is a comedy film that we should
This is a
work on.
Freaky Friday movie.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and with our wacky sidekick JT.
What's up?
Yeah. JT concocted the whole operation.
Right,
Yeah,
he's the one that
excellent
switched our
spreadsheet.
brains.
Yeah.
He's like the professor from Gilligan's Island. But to that point, you got to really want to be in medicine. I mean, I really, when it came time to make a commitment, I really wanted to do it. You got to love it, or else you shouldn't be doing it.
You got to I think you got to really, my dad's that way. I mean, he's 73, he's a hand surgeon, and he's still, it's just what he loves to do. And I think he sort of like, performing or anything in that, in those kinds of disciplines. I mean, even if the money is good, you gotta, because like with my dad, you'd see it, he sleeps, he doesn't get much sleep, he's working nonstop, but he loves it. And he never really wants to stop.
Yeah, I get that. And surgery is a little different thing in terms of what you love to do. I don't really like surgery. I found it kind of boring, and patients. I like engaging with patients, or trying to solve diagnostic problems and therapeutic problems, stuff like that. And I love that stuff. I just love it, just the way he loves surgery.
Yeah, is that what drew you to media and stuff? Did you sort of realize that you had like an affinity for
media? I sort of left pre-med for about a year and declared that I was not going to do that. That's not for me. That was what everyone expected me to do, and I'm going to go find my own stuff. And during that year and a half, I did a lot of theater and music and all kinds of shit, all kinds of craziness, and always had kind of a talent / interest in that direction, but made me extremely unhappy. I was not happy doing it. And so I said, no, maybe that science is the stuff I should be doing. And I went back to it, and I was like, okay, this really feels right now. Plus my brain had aged about 2 years, and I was ready now to do it. But radio was an accident. Radio was really an accident. It was 1983. And I remember New Year's Eve, 1983, 1984. So that's why I know it was 1983 when I started. And this new radio station, K-Rock, came out of nowhere that year. And it was 500 yards from my apartment. And so people I knew were sort of new people at the station, and they called me, and they had this show in the middle of the night that they needed to turn into a community service show. And they decided they wanted me to do a segment called Ask a Surgeon, where I'd use big words. It would be really funny. I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. Why the F would I want to do that? And, but I still was, at the time, I was working like crazy on AIDS wards. AIDS patients filled the oncology and the infectious disease wards. We're doing it hand over fist. And a certain Anthony Fauci was out there telling us young physicians, we got to get out there and educate and talk about it, and change people's behavior, because this AIDS thing is going to kill 10 million people. So that was in my head as I sort of went in, and here was this amazing thing. These people were coming with these questions in the middle of the night to an FM radio station, and I thought, how about if can I keep coming back and answering questions when they come up? Because I thought it was a community service. And I did that for 10 years, one night a week. I thought it was community service, really. It's fun, different, interesting. So
what did that epidemic teach you that maybe has parallels to what we're dealing with now?
Yeah, that I've been an acolyte of Fauci ever since. I believe you can rely on his judgment. I think you should listen to him. I've said that since the beginning of this pandemic. and he tends to exaggerate. He tends to overstate the risk in order to get a good outcome. So I know what he's doing. He's saying, this is what could happen, but he states it in a way as though it's going to happen if you don't fill in the blank behavior, and that's his job. That's what he's supposed to do, is make sure we have a good outcome. And so he will get us through this in a stable way, in an effective way. Just do what he tells you, and we'll get through this. Okay. Don't listen to the press. Don't listen to all the craziness. Don't listen to everything else. Just listen to the CDC, listen to Fauci, and we will get through this better than we knew. With the AIDS epidemic, we ended up with 175,000 deaths as opposed to 10 million. So we congratulated ourselves, as opposed to saying, "Oh shit, we scared a whole generation to death." Now everyone who was in high school in 1993 was scared to have sex.
Right. And is your temperament different than that? How would you place yourself on the spectrum of, like, if Fauci is predicting worse outcomes to kind of scare us into our wits, where do you fall?
My problem is no one's really asked me this, and so let me see if I can frame it properly. My problem is I am deeply offended isn't the right word. Deeply troubled by the fact that I could see when Wuhan hit, I could see what the press was doing. I could see that they were engaged in panic porn. And I knew that panic would intrude into the practice of medicine, and people they'd be listening to the press and not to doctors. That's why I kept saying, stop it. I kept trying to compare it to the H1N1 epidemic, which killed 600,000 people and infected somewhere between half and a billion people.
When was that?
What's that?
When was that?
That was 2009. And you don't even know what happened. That's what I kept saying. You don't know. It was a major pandemic and you don't even know what happened. So calibrate yourself, calibrate your emotions to this one, listen to Fauci, and we're going to be okay. And I was pushing back very hard on the press because I knew something like what has happened would happen, which is people who just learned to pronounce the name of a medication would suddenly have passionate opinions about whether that medicine should be used. They should be demanding non-pharmacological interventions like quarantines, things they know nothing about, have no judgment with, and we should not be hearing from them. It should be Fauci and the medical community. It should be the second story on the news and people saying, everyone, be careful, wear your mask, doctors are working on it, pay attention, and off we go.
Do you feel like the media feels like they have to push concern about the virus harder because they feel like they're working in opposition to the presidential administration, basically?
I don't know. Maybe I don't know. There's a general hair on fire quality to the press at all times on all sides. This isn't just a left or right thing. And so the press is all now about my hair's on fire about something. Every day. I used to do a daytime radio show, a local station in Los Angeles, 790. And I would say that this was like 3 years ago. I'd say every day. I can't remember what their hair was on fire about yesterday. Their hair's on fire about something every day.
Right.
And I saw that bleeding into this medical thing. And I thought that's going to create a problem for doctors being able to just do their job. And lo and behold, here we are, where you're not allowed to have opinions about a lot of things, or you're signaling something, you're signaling a political position just by having a medical opinion.
Right. What are your politics?
Super moderate, super independent. I thought I was liberal, but I've learned that I guess I'm not. Then I thought I was libertarian, sort of like a left-leaning libertarian, but I've met real libertarians and I'm nowhere near that harsh. So I'm just I see both sides of things. I appreciate both sides. I sort of generally lean towards not trusting the government to solve problems. Not that I don't trust the government. They don't solve things efficiently. And so I generally am interested in people solving problems on their own without government intervention. But I understand it. Like a friend of mine, Leo Terrell, is an attorney. He goes, I was announcing that I was libertarian, and he goes, "Oh yeah, you're very passionate about the homeless thing. Who do you want to fix the homeless? The government, Mr. Libertarian? You want the government to fix that?" I thought, "Oh yeah, I do want the government to fix that." So I sort of pick and choose, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you experience the same sort of during the AIDS epidemic, the same sort of media uproar? Was it similar to now,
No,
or?
no, 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 no. You can't even.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't even like. It's like it was a different world from a media
Mhm.
standpoint. But what I can tell you is what you have to appreciate about Loveline at the time. It was radical, radical, for two reasons. Well, several reasons, but one was that as far as the American public was concerned, adolescent and young adults were not having sex. So why would you talk to them? It'll make them, why would you talk to them about these outrageous topics? Everything was shrouded in Latin, venereal diseases. The vaginal yeast infection was called Manilia. Everything had weird labels and names because they wanted to shroud it, keep it away from people. And I was like, no, this stuff is easy, man. It's all, they can understand this. And by the way, as far as them not engaged in sexual activity, you're out of your minds. And if we don't start teaching them about HIV and AIDS, well, didn't have the terms HIV and AIDS yet. It was still just being called GRIDS and AIDS and HTLV3. This was the terminology of the day. But if we don't teach them about this, they're the ones that are gonna be dying about this. And I was talking about safe sex before the term had been invented. And you have to remember, at that point, condoms were behind the counter. You had to ask the pharmacist to bring them out. It was crazy time. Crazy different time.
Do you think a large chunk of people don't get condoms just because they don't want to ask for them, basically?
Well, back then, for sure.
Right.
Back then, for sure.
Have we gotten better as a culture about wearing condoms? I've heard people
had gotten better, but one of the problems is that I think whenever public health messages are exaggerated, I call it the reefer madness syndrome. Whenever you exaggerate or you're inconsistent or you're hypocritical in your health messaging, you lose the opposition. Yeah, you lose them, and you lose them for multiple generations. So we exaggerated the risk of HIV and AIDS. Like, remember the stuff. You're not just having sex with that person, you're having sex with every person that person ever had sex with. Remember that whole thing? And we scared everybody. And then they started realizing, well, they really got more of a sense of what the risk really is. They're like, well, screw it. I'm not wearing condoms anymore. And so for a long time now, it's been really hard to get people to wear condoms for a long time.
Right.
So yes, it's more routinely a part of the kind of, it's easier to use. It's more sort of, there's no lower barriers to use than back when we were starting in all respects. I mean, in terms of people understanding we got to wear them and it's okay, but getting people to wear them remains a problem.
Has your opinion on weed changed over the years? I mean, it seems like it's not
really. I mean, Joe Rogan's pissed at me because I treated a couple people with cannabis addiction, and that was offensive to him somehow. And it's like, no, I have people. I'm not saying weed's bad. I'm not saying any drugs are bad. I don't believe in the notion of bad drugs. I just don't believe that. I believe that some people develop a relationship with drugs that are bad, and that's about the unique chemistry and genetics of that person, their psychology, and the drug. But it's not because the drug is bad. Heroin was a good cough suppressant. OxyContin is really good if you have cancer pain. Yeah. You're a heroin addict, OxyContin's not good for you. It's gonna be a problem. So I've always been very kind of agnostic. I think maybe I was more frustrated at one time with not being able to have a rational conversation about it because I was seeing so many people struggling with it. And whenever I would bring it up, people would just go crazy. That was before it was legalized. And at the time I was thinking, if we let's legalize this thing so we can start to have rational conversations about it, because there's so much political energy around it being the best thing of, the greatest chemical humanity has ever contacted, which obviously is an overstatement. For some people it's good. For some people it's not good.
Yeah. I think about it personally. Like, I never know if I'm being honest with myself about my substance intake. You know what I mean? Like,
tell me.
So for 7 months, I didn't do anything from January to, I guess that takes us to July. But these last couple of weeks, I've been drinking more, having a glass of wine, maybe a couple days in a row, maybe a couple glasses of wine. And then these last couple of days, I've been smoking pot. And then I'm like, am I too far over my skis? Am I in problematic territory, or am I overreacting to my own normal behavior?
Right. So you got to look at your own history and your family history, right?
Right.
So have I ever lost control of substances before, or
Yes.
behaviors, or and then is there alcoholism or addiction in first degree relatives in my family?
Yes.
Okay, so that's you have to not lose control, because
Right.
with your genetics, if you lose control, really lose control, well, now you need treatment. Now you've got another problem.
Right.
Now seems like you backed away every time you sort of started getting momentum, and people can do that their whole lifetime, right?
That's what's crazy, is that
Yeah.
people do that dance their whole life, and it seems like such a high risk dance to be doing.
It is a high risk dance,
but a lot of us do it.
Yeah, and because when you have this certain chemistry, it does a lot for you. You don't do it because it doesn't do anything for you. You do it because it does a lot for you.
Right. You
And
feel
that's
better.
Yeah, and that's the problem, that it's not static. It progresses. And if you could just say static, it would be like a therapeutic medication. But you can't. It's not in the nature of the biology. It progresses.
Right.
So you have to be not binging. You have to use only intermittently. You can't, string yourself out, because if you lose control, you've now triggered a new problem that you've just before had the potential for. And if you trigger it, then it requires treatment.
Yeah. I was because after college I had an issue with binging for days.
Bad were you? Well, you said your family's kind of got the gene a little bit.
Yeah, I would just, I think on my mom's side, my grandparents, they were dead before I was, age 3. But they had issues with addiction
of alcoholism. They both died of alcoholism. Okay.
Right.
Well, there you go.
No. They died of lung cancer from smoking.
From smoking. Okay.
Yeah. But I think my grandpa he drank a lot. Anyways.
Yeah.
So I had like a period of time where I was fully sober.
Well, let me give you a little pep talk first before you tell me your story. And I'm thinking about your dad. Is this your dad's dad, the lung cancer guy?
My mom's dad.
Mom's dad.
Yeah.
Mom's dad. Huh. Did your dad have an alcoholic parent?
No.
Okay. I just want to, I was hoping your dad did, because I was going to use him as an example, because having this genetic potential has tons of advantages to it. It's not just, I'm an addict. There's a reason this genetic potential, whatever it is, and it's a constellation of genetic qualities.
If we channel it.
You channel it, but there's a reason it has stayed persistent in the human genome forever. It's always been there. And you would think if it just caused bad illness, and it caused pretty bad illness, throughout much of history, namely alcoholism primarily, you would think it would kind of burn out of the genome, but it has stayed absolutely stable.
Yeah.
The reason is that when you're not using, and before you've triggered the out of controlness, the disease process, before that, you have certain qualities by virtue of that genetic makeup that are very not just adaptive, but valuable from an evolutionary standpoint. So alcoholics make great fighter pilots, shortstops, surfers, anything extreme. That's where you guys are at. Alcoholics are at their best. That's where their anxiety goes down. They feel most focused. They feel most alive and connected. There's something about that state. It's kind of a high that if we're in battle now, if we're in war, guess what? You're going to have your wits about you. You're going to be Ulysses S. Grant. I mean, you heard this descriptions of him in battle where he just walked on through. He'll walk through.
We're like the chaos all-stars, because we just got chaos in our heads all day. So when we get into the chaos, we're like, nice, this matches.
In some people describe that sort of phenomenon. I know exactly what you're talking about, JT. Not everyone has that. They just feel better in those extreme circumstances. And I used to fool around with this when I would lecture large numbers of addicts. I just go, hey man, if a bomb went off in the parking lot out here, what do you guys want to do? And they're all like, I'm gonna go check it out. And as a normie, I go, that's the last thing I would do. That's the last thing.
Yeah.
I would get the hell. I would go immediately the other direction. Addicts go immediately towards the action. And evidently, in extreme circumstances, that is a survival advantage. And it makes sense. It makes sense. I first thought of this when I was watching the movie Braveheart, and they made it so crystal clear that 10,000 guys go into battle, 3 guys survive. Oh, those are the alcoholics. That's who survives, and not the using alcoholic, but the people with those genetics. So for me, and they're also very intelligent and creative and stuff. So when people are pejorative, speak of addicts pejoratively, it upsets me, because that's not the whole story. That's a disease process that happens to people with a lot of rich potential. So there's my piece.
What's up, guys? I'm interrupting this podcast to let you know once again that we are brought to you by Manscaped. Manscaped, thank you so much for keeping our trims pubed, for looking after our hogs, for making sure that our dongles are looking fresh and clean. Because what do you do throughout the day to stay fresh? I'll take some apple cider vinegar.
Me too,
I'll
bro.
eat JT too.
Let's go.
I'll eat bacon. I'll do some assault bike, and then I'll trim my pubes. Okay? Because if you're bored in the house, why not play with your balls? Our sponsor today, Manscaped, is here to make sure your balls are smooth while you or your partner are playing with them. Manscaped promotes clean hygiene when it comes to shaving your balls thanks to their Lawnmower 3.0. Manscaped is our go-to brand for below-the-waist grooming and hygiene. And while you're probably looking for new things to do at home, why not make manscaping part of your routine? Okay? Because Manscaped is forever changing the grooming game with their Perfect Package 3.0. This kit comes with the Lawnmower 3.0, the cordless body trimmer, a ton of other liquid formulations to round out your manscaping routine. And you're not going to cut your balls because they have advanced skin-safe technology. And Manscaped obsesses over this technology, guys. Okay, they obsess hard. They make sure that your balls are all good and they feel good. And then you can get the Manscaped Crop Preserve, an anti-chafing ball deodorant and moisturizer. And you're probably sitting on the couch with your hand on your balls anyway, so you might as well keep those smooth eggs smelling fresh. There's nothing better than walking around town with like fresh nuts where you're just like, damn, I got good nuts. Yeah. I mean, JT, how does that make you feel?
Dude, I just feel 10 feet tall and bulletproof, and I feel like I deserve the world and everything in it. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. So for a limited time, get 2 free gifts: the Shed Travel Bag and the patented high-performance anti-chafing Manscaped Boxer Briefs. I mean, you get 20% off plus free shipping with the code GODEEPWW@manscaped.com. Do yourself a favor and always use the right tools for the job. Get 20% off and free shipping with the code GODEEPWW@manscaped.com. Make playing with your balls the best part of your day. Thank you, Manscaped. All right, back to the show.
Legend.
All right, guys. That was fun.
Stuff, guys. Yeah, super fun. Aaron, are we good for Thursday?
So now tell me about when you lost control. You're binging.
Yeah. No, I've seen that in alcohol. When they get sober, a lot of times their life just blossoms, it seems like. But yeah, it just after college, I thought it was, party habits that I created in college, where it's just like, you drink on Friday and then you wake up and you day party on Saturday. And then it started to become a thing where it's like, I couldn't handle the hangovers because of like I'm a pretty happy guy, but then like the hangovers, it's just such a contrast to like the lowest of lows where I just have to drink to ease that off. And then, so I took a period of sobriety, and it was great. And I experienced those things you're talking about where I just channeled it into like stand up and just creating. And like, I was like, I'm doing stand up till like 2 a.m. every night, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, it's always been this weird sort of, it's sort of like whenever I drink, I'm like, I don't know if I can handle this. But then like, it's when you get like a period of sobriety, it's sort of like, I miss like the rush of like, raging with my friends. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Raging's like, important.
Just missing out, So
well,
it's
so it's balance. FOMO and raging. I think it's unrealistic to tell people that have identified a potential to lose control, oh my God, you've got to get treatment, or you should. I think both positions are unrealistic. You should never drink again. Yeah. You need to get treatment right now. Right. Neither are people going to do. They're just not. And so my position is, if you lose control, be honest with yourself, get treatment early. Don't let the thing spiral to you destroy people or yourself. Don't get sick. So be honest, be clear, and get help when you need it. But more importantly, don't lose control. Just really try to, you can do it. People do it. They, if you're motivated, if you lose the motivation, then all of a sudden it can spiral.
How has like treatment modalities changed since you became a doctor?
You know, it's gotten more involved and more individualized. It's I've seen so many waves of
like treatment
kind of fads of treatment. Yeah, I can't even tell you. I mean, I've lived through so every time a new one comes around, I'm like, all right, we'll see. You know, essentially what has happened, I think in a good way, is they're starting to split hairs into the types of alcoholic or addict somebody is. Are they, you know, they continuous? Are they
catch-all?
Yeah. Are they intermittent? Are they severe? Are they moderate? And can we craft a treatment for that specific phase of the illness? It's much like what we're just talking about here. The early, you know, premonitory stuff should have a different treatment than somebody who loses control, obviously.
That was one of my issues with 12-step, which I think is incredibly helpful and some of the most beautiful literature I've ever read, like absent of treatment. Like
it's very absolute. It's very absolute.
But everyone's the same, and that's a huge bedrock of the process.
It is for some. I mean, CBT is also very effective now, and there are medication-assisted treatments. A lot of them now. We used to have none, and some of them really work for people. And the hard part, the part I have a problem with, is from my profession standpoint, is how do you select the correct patient for the right treatment? We don't really know that yet.
How do you Dr. House
when it comes to the medication? What's that?
How do you Dr. House that? How do you do the match fit between the patient and what stage they're at?
Yeah. And it's even more than just stage. It's, you know, the sense of that individual's biology and their psychology and how this is likely to play out. That's what I just call clinical skill. And unfortunately, it's the training of people in the field of addiction is much more not one size fits all, but much more rote. You know, opiate addicts get Suboxone. You know, alcoholics try naltrexone. It's like, well, maybe let's think about it. There might be better alternatives. And so as people get skill with it, they get better at these things. And trauma is often, you know, people that lose. If you have bad enough addiction, you need to see me. There's 100% probability you had childhood trauma. And so childhood trauma is sort of the bedrock psychological issue, or I'd even call it neurobiological issue, that eventually has to be dealt with. And part of the art, again, is when do you deal with that? Sometimes if you go at somebody with severe trauma too early, that makes them run away and use. And so it's, you know, getting the right thing and the right timing.
And then you said you said on Loveline that the most common question you got was guys asking how they could jizz more.
No, that was not the most common. That was a common question.
I think
the most common question was about are they normal? Are they
right? Oh, that's interesting. Yeah.
And I would say the most common of the am I normal is my penis normal?
Right.
And I've heard you guys being very open and honest on the Stern Show about your penises.
But why do guys care so much about jizz loads? Is it just because they match it with virility?
Yeah, well, I think men have more
is better.
It's kind of a dominance thing. Yeah, everything's got to be bigger, more. You know, that's how we are as men.
Right.
Interesting.
What does that do to you when you hear those questions all day? Like, does it change the way you think about yourself at all? Like, are you like, oh, I actually feel pretty good about my situation?
No. I just always think, what's wrong with us, man? What's wrong with us? We're so bad. We're so primitive and we're so simple. We just are. And women want to make us more complicated because it's actually disturbing how simple we are.
Right.
We'd rather talk about Turkish get-ups and loads. Yeah. That's it.
Turkish get-ups, big loads and bacon.
Yeah. That sounds like a conversation I want to check into. Yeah.
At a rager.
Yeah.
At a rager.
Yeah. I'm a huge Adam Carolla fan. How did you guys shape each other? Like, because you guys did radio together, and you guys kind of rose in fame as a unit. I mean, him and Jimmy Kimmel too, but I really associate you guys together.
We were partners, and we still do a podcast together, right? And we're still every day doing one. But he was my idea. again, my career is, there's zero blueprints for me. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just sort of exploring things, and I'm grateful to try to find ways to do good through the media and do something interesting and creative. And so some television producers showed up. I was doing Loveland at the time with Ricky Rackman, and they're like, we're going to make a TV show. I'm like, what? How's that work? What's that all about? Okay, I'll try that. And Ricky got kind of stalled out in contract negotiations. And then these guys, everyone turned to me and went, okay, who do you want to be the co-host? And I'm like, I'm a doctor. Leave me alone. I have no idea. I don't know anything about this stuff. I really didn't back then. I was very naive. And I remember I used to listen to Adam as Mr. Burcham on Saturdays. He had a shift on Saturdays where he would take phone calls during the breaks. And I would literally be doing my nursing home rounds, and I would time getting in my car with his break so I could hear him taking these phone calls. I thought it was so hysterical. And I remember I was out running one day. I could show you the exact spot I was in. I thought, I bet that Corolla guy could do this. I think he's got the sensibility. And that's exactly how it happened. And they literally put us in a makeup booth and said, you guys work out your relationship. We'll start filming in an hour.
Wow.
That was it.
Wow. Yeah, you guys had such good rapport.
For whatever reason, it worked from the beginning, and what was there at the beginning is what's there to this day. And we did lots of interesting stuff together. I mean, we were reminiscing just last week about the fact that he was in Chicago last week, and he goes, "Dude, my first trip to Chicago, his first trip out of California, was when he and I went to Chicago. We were promoting Loveline. There's a whole story here. Loveline originally was a Fox late night show. It was, and we were going around visiting the Fox affiliates around the country. And there's so many crazy things that happen in television. We were being distributed by a company called New World, which was owned by, God, he was the former head of NBC. I can see him as clear as day. Brandon Tartikoff. And they had built that company essentially to be sold, and it got sold while we were going around the country promoting it. And that was the end of the show. It just stopped. It was canceled.
Wow.
And then it got picked up by MTV like 6 months later.
And did he always gets excited when you rant, because he's kind of like one of the best ranters. Did you rant before him, or did you kind of learn how to rant from him?
I think I'm mimicking him. You always can tell when I'm a rant when he'll just go, Drew, go.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Go.
He goes, go, Drew, go. And he loves it. He gets such a vicarious thrill from it.
Yeah, and I always when I get that way, I get very nervous, because I've learned through the years that I can be impetuous, and I always try to be less just careful with my language, because I can get excited about stuff. On that Fox 11 thing that you guys were on with me, I sometimes will get carried away when I think, I don't know. I got to be really cautious.
You had that big moment early in the coronavirus, right, where you were kind of calling out the media, and it seemed
That's exactly right. And I was excessive. I crossed the line, and then I paid a huge price for it. And I apologize. But it was me being, I wasn't being careful. I was being emotional. I was like pushing back hard because I could see it. I could see it coming, and I felt like I needed them to shut up. So I was trying to get the press to just shut. You're gonna cause harm. And now I would posit humbly, they have caused harm. Mental health problems are up. Suicide is up. Substance is up. Opiate addiction is up. Everything's up because of the excesses that the press essentially mandated our government to do.
But what does it feel like to be the focal point of that kind of cultural?
Horrible. Yeah. Do you guys watch Ozark, the TV show?
No.
So my wife got so upset, she started behaving like one of the characters in the third season,
really?
like the wife in the third season. I said, hey, you are going in that season. The wife ends up in living in her car in a Walmart parking lot, going out every day and buying a handle of vodka and drinking it. And I kept yelling at my wife. I said, you are inches away from a Walmart parking lot and a handle of vodka. I see it because she was so disturbed. I've been in these shitstorms a number of times. Yeah. And they're always distorted. They're never accurate. There's something at the core that I'm responsible for, and I need to take that responsibility, and I will do so. But the degree of, I mean, people are threatening our lives. You can't even imagine how bad it gets. People get wild. It's a mob, and a mob becomes violent. That's how it goes.
Have you cultivated a sort of a mentality to carry you through those situations, or is it has it been different each time?
It's been different each time. It gets depressing. It's you think about throwing in the towel and just forget it. It's not worth it. And usually I would say, I just get focused on trying to do good work. Like there's still stuff for me to do. I'm going to go do it, and we'll see what happens. And if I can still be useful, I still feel like let's keep going. Just keep your head down, keep moving.
Right. And that calling, you have a calling, which is to like help people who are addicted to stuff.
Well, that's my calling is to see, I get drawn towards what I see as a predominant problem of our time. So I was drawn to HIV and AIDS and treating all that. Then I was sort of drawn to dealing with childhood trauma. And then I was drawn to dealing with addictions because I just could see these things just being huge problems. And I felt like, I have this crazy opportunity to use media, and we can use it to sort of address these things.
Yeah. Do you think it's made you a better doctor, like being under so much visibility?
No, it's made me a better communicator. And to the extent that I'm trying to do something useful, I suppose, that's more better at doing what I want to do. I'd say, better at doing what I want to do, which is use media to do good. And by the way, I'm not kidding about you guys and your mask video. That is the best health messaging that has come through thus far. Because
thank you.
Because after all these years of doing this, I know for sure, I know so clearly, you can't put a doctor or a government official in a white coat in a box and have that person tell people what to do and have them do it. It never works.
Why does that never work though? Why can't we just like?
It just never works.
Are we just too proud? We're like, you don't know shit, doctor. Like, get out of my face.
It's something about it that we resist. It's why we invented Loveline, because Loveline was, wait a minute, there's a doctor there, but there's somebody giving the doctor shit, and we're listening to a relatable story. We're listening to the story of a caller, and the doctor's making sense of the caller for me. But what I really am drawn to is that caller and that caller's experience. And then so I'm sort of slipping in under that with narrative, relatable source, and then if you throw in humor, you've got them. That's it. That's what changes behavior. And I knew that intuitively back in 1983. Since then, there's actually been a discipline where the researchers have looked into this, and lo and behold, those are the three elements you need: narrative, relatable source, humor. And the message gets through. You guys did it. You did it. That's it.
Oh,
period. The government should be calling you and going, what else can we do? Got any other let's figure out a 30-second version or something. Then the fact that they're not really pisses me off. It means they're marching off in their bullshit. Here, see, this is where I get upset. They're bad, excessive messaging, hypocritical messaging, mandates, and sort of threats. That's the worst thing you could do to a public. The worst thing you could do. Where are these so-called professionals? Why don't they look at the literature on this? It's all out there. It tells them how they should be approaching it, and they're not.
We've been reached out to, but I'm not sure I think it is a government organization, so I think we are going to do some sort of video.
Good, and don't let them bully you into what it needs to be. You guys figure it out. Your instincts are good.
China reached out to us too.
Who did?
China. Like one of their news organizations. I think they wanted to use us for like anti-US kind of messaging.
Oh my God,
yeah.
This is dude.
But we're like the NBA now. We're like, it's such a big market. Maybe we should just agree and get in there.
Well, I would do it.
Spreading the stoke on.
But I spread the stoke to China, man. What to Wuhan? Wuhan Stoke Nation. But it'd be. But if you have your wits about you when you go into it, it could be interesting.
Yeah, especially if it's live, and so they can't really, distort it too much. That could be a fun encounter. Yeah.
I'm glad. You made me feel better to know that somebody's reaching out to you to actually use your skill set, because that's what needs to happen. I guarantee you there are some, what should we call those yoked out guys that were giving you shit? The
Aggro bros.
aggro bros. I guarantee there are aggro bros out there who are wearing a mask today because they saw the behavior of those guys and went, I don't want to do that. Come on. What am I thinking? Literally, I guarantee you that's happened.
Right.
Yeah, we've seen some booths or something about Huntington where they're having like free mask booths and Huntington. I'm not sure if it was related to us, but I think
it's not about the free mask though, right? That's the humor. It's about the insanity of people getting angry at a couple of dudes hanging out, giving out masks. That's insane, and it's so clearly insane that anyone who's engaged in that behavior immediately looks at themselves.
Yeah. Well, I saw that a lot with you on Loveline, where you would be telling someone, you'd like literally be explaining to them what the issue was, and they would get so resistant, and you would oftentimes have to be like, "Hey, like I'm a doctor, I'm telling you this. I need you to hold on." And there's just like this strong human impulse that people can't.
They don't like. Themselves. They don't like authority, and they don't like. And part of it is that their defensive structure is such that it's set up in a way to be defensive, right? And so when you come up against it, if you have a direct assault, well, the force shields are up even harder. You got to go around behind the defenses and have them look at themselves. If you go to an aggro bro and go, "Hey man, you're an aggro bro, calm down." Really? That's going to calm them down?
Right.
As opposed to, "Hey, look at this guy. Look what he's doing. It's crazy. He's trying to beat up these two dudes." They'd be like, "Oh my God, that's me.
Right.
Gotta do something about that."
Yeah, I think it's maybe there's something about like when you go to the dentist and they're like, your teeth are gonna fall out, and maybe there's something in people where they're like, a part of their brain is like, I don't know if this is conditioned, but they're like, oh, they're trying to scare me. They're trying to scare me. I can go halfway.
Yeah, but you got to remember, there's a reason that person got to the point where their teeth are falling out.
Right.
And that reason is the same reason that they don't want to hear what the dentist has to say.
Right.
And it is, and yes, they may go halfway, but like, what the worst thinking you can have is, what's in it for that guy? What's he trying to pull? That's that's almost a criminal thought process, right? That's how criminals think. Like nothing, everyone's in it for something. It's like, no, it's his profession. He's offering you services to fix your teeth. Take it or leave it.
Everybody's trying to fuck me. Yeah, that's so funny. I think one thing that maybe has changed, obviously over these last couple decades is like the notions of like masculinity and femininity.
Oh boy, you're treading into dangerous territory. Good luck.
Well, I don't even mean in like a.
What do you mean by those terms, even?
Yeah, I guess like just the traditional notions of what's masculine and feminine have changed.
Okay.
There seems to be a lot more fluidity in them, obviously.
Sure.
And I feel like even in psychology, it used to be more kind of binary, and now those things have. But do you feel like we've gone? I guess like, have we? Do you think we've lost sight too much of what's masculine? You know what I mean? Have we gotten like?
I think there's going to be a backlash. Corolla's been talking about this a lot.
That's what kind of makes me mention it too. Is that he kind of feels like he's from a more traditional model of like.
He keeps telling me, because I ask him questions like that. I think he's got an interesting view of the world, and so I'm always poking at him. And he goes, "Hey, why do you think there's so much interest in MMA? Why do you think all of a sudden these guys are just going hyper masculine? Because they've been told they're bad. It's been suppressed. They've been marginalized, and now it's coming out. They're sort of expressing themselves in these hyper masculine sort of endeavors, and he thinks there's going to be a lot more of that."
Yeah, and MMA is interesting because a lot of the fighters, like the things they'll say or the things they'll get in trouble for would get them suspended in other sports. You know what I mean? Like the latitude of behavior that we'll accept from fighters is way more outrageous. They're more, they can be violent, they can be racist, they can be misogynistic, and it almost makes the fight more interesting because we're wanting to see how those ideas get those forces
come together, the forces of evil fight it out.
Exactly.
And it's all extreme. The point is it's extreme, and it's probably a counterbalance to something else that we're sort of where we're trying to stay a little more even. It's this expression.
Have you been in a fight?
as a kid, but Adam trained me in boxing for a while. That was it.
What band did you guys fight in Loveline? Like the guys came in drunk and you guys threw hands with them?
No, it was a little bit more complicated than that. It was Pennywise.
Yeah, it was Pennywise.
Oh, really?
And Fletcher was, this was back in the first time was in the Ricky Rackman era. And he was sitting across the table drinking tequila and eating pizza. And as the show was wrapping up, all of a sudden he vomited across just spewed vomit all over everybody and everything. And everybody got up and started scattering. And if you know Fletcher, he's 6'7", 350 if he's an ounce.
Oh my God!
His hand will cover your back. He's a man mountain, and he stood up and started walking like Frankenstein, coming towards me, vomiting on me, and then sticking his finger down his throat to vomit more, trying to just vomit all over me. He backed me into the corner, and I got up on this CD shelf. Strangely, it was a shelf that Adam Carolla had just built for that studio back when he was trying to work his way into the morning show. And I was standing on it, and Fletcher, even though I was standing on a foot-high platform, Fletcher was still leaning over me, trying to vomit. And so I punched him in the face a couple times, just trying to stand him up so he'd stop vomiting on me. And it was like punching a ghost. It's like my hand, it didn't register. It was like I was punching, like it had zero effect on him. Like my hand went through him or something. It was crazy. And so then he was forbidden from coming in the studio for many years. And then he came back and he brought this huge trophy filled with vomit with surfboard resin on top of it. And then he got drunk again and started threatening to take me and Adam to Poo Poo City. The vomit wasn't enough. We were going to Poo Poo City now. And so they had security. There's a lot that ensued. He beat a guy up, and then he locked Adam, and then he essentially kidnapped me and Adam, locked us in this room. Police were summoned, and so we're looking through into the engineer booth, and there's cops in there. And at that point, he announced he's got a live grenade on him. He's going to pull the trigger if they.
What?
Yeah, it was awful.
What were you thinking at that moment when
I was thinking I was going to die. That's what I was thinking. I
Really?
thought this insane monster is now taking over the studio, and we talked our way out eventually.
What did you? Go ahead, Chad.
How did he say it? Well, like he said, "I'm going to take you to Poo Poo City." Is that
Yes, that's what he said. He goes, "You've never been to Poo Poo City. We're going to Poo Poo City. That's how we're doing it." Yeah, and we're like, I had heard of Fletcher and Poo Poo City once somewhere else in one of the other broadcasts, so I knew he was quite capable of going to Poo Poo City.
Wow.
So he had taken many of his guitar colleagues to Poo Poo City.
Oh my God.
Do you think does sociopathy and excess? I mean, do you think it's more inherent in entertainment people?
That what?
That they just behave like that or can have those psychological dispositions?
Well,
like relative to the rest of the population.
Yeah, I actually have the only published research on this.
Whoa.
And lo and behold, people that are musicians, actors, reality show contestants, comedians have higher childhood trauma, higher narcissism, higher substance use than the general population.
Right.
The answer is yes. It's
Is
actually
that
published data.
Did you do research at open mics?
Yeah, that's where I do my research.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I got to go to more open mics, including attending.
Well, what's funny about that is that
Yeah.
people are so bored and beaten down at open mics that someone will be on stage being like trying to make humor out of how their uncle molested them, and everyone in the crowd is looking at their phone.
And
we're like, hey, is this
we become desensitized.
You just hear it so much. Like, is this guy's 3 minutes almost up? I got to make it to another open mic after this. Yeah.
So weird. And by the way, the topic of childhood sexual abuse and stuff, literally in the 90s, when we started hearing it all the time on Loveline, people literally were saying, well, it's not true, or it's always happened, but people are just talking more about it now. It's like, no. This was an epidemic. We went through a massive problem with this. And all through the 90s, people were in really serious denial about it.
So you think it ramped up during the 90s?
I know. I think it ramped up in the 70s and 80s, and we were hearing about it in the 90s.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I'm reading a book about the
Interesting.
band The Replacements, and they were all, not all, I shouldn't speak casually about it, but a few of them were mistreated that way as youngsters. Yeah.
It was very
And
common. And by the you've heard Kroll and I talk about how horrific the 70s were. That was literally a decade where people are saying, "Hey, man, whatever you." These are like little adults. They're into it. Whatever you're into, man, it's all good. It's just expressing
Right.
themselves. Just expressing themselves. Oh my God, it was
Right.
disgusting. What was swept under the rug. Listen to all the rock. Listen to the actual lyrics from all the rock. Particularly the ballads from the 70s. It's all about them raping 14-year-olds in a van. It's
Right.
generally that's the general theme. Sweeping into town, barefoot 14-year-old, had to let her go because I'm a rambling man. There it is.
Yeah, it's a bummer. Yeah, hopefully the music in the next generation's a little more
Sensitive.
a bit better. Yeah, that'd be helpful.
That would be helpful.
When you were doing all the celebrity rehabs and stuff like that, was there anything you noticed specific to people getting sober in that context that was different than people getting sober in a normal context?
Yes. Thankfully, most of what I saw was I was grateful for. So a couple things. One, I could push them very hard in treatment and they wouldn't leave. Normally, when you start really pushing on addicts, they just, I'm out of here. But these guys wanted to be on TV and they wanted to get paid. And none of that would happen if they didn't stay till the end. So they would stay. And that gave us a real opportunity to work very hard with them. So that was good. They all went through a crazy transition that I never would have predicted. And I was so grateful for. They came in, wanted to get paid, wanted to be on TV, generally wanted to screw with us. But because we were so serious about the treatment, they ended up sort of understanding that and starting to participate in it. And by the middle of the second week, every single one of them switched from wanting to be a pain in the ass to going, oh my God, this is really helpful. I want to be an example for other people, which blew my mind. But happened in every group. Group. So that was very different. Some of them continued in treatment some of them I working, at least in contact with to this day.
That's nice. Yeah.
That's cool.
And I've really struggled with porn addiction my whole life. Still grapple with it. And I get a lot of people who ask me how to best deal with it. And I tell them smart feet, get a blocker on your laptop. If it's severe, go to SA meetings, which I've done. I did consistently for a couple of years, and then I've kind of taken a break. But yeah.
That's good. I mean, listen, you should be, I wonder if you should write about this because we don't know the full impact on the adolescent male brain particularly. What's seeing that stuff that's so arousing at such a young age and having such access to it, we really don't know what that experience is. It's you guys, your age group was the first one to really be contending with this.
I didn't realize porn-induced erectile dysfunction was a thing till
huge problem for me.
Till college.
It's a big problem.
Which I think it affects a lot more dudes than anyone realizes.
A friend of mine, Alexander Katahakis, runs this group called Center for Healthy Sex, and she says she sees it all the time.
Yeah.
All the time.
Yeah.
What are the sexual issues young people are having that we need to keep an eye out on?
Well, the impact of porn generally, in terms of their arousal systems, in terms of satisfaction, in terms of what they're expecting from their partners, in terms of what they think of themselves and sexuality generally. I mean, it's having a massive impact. The other thing is this ability to form intimate relationships is sort of impaired in a lot of people. And a lot of guys, or they get stuck with their porn and they sort of like, well, I'd like a girlfriend, but that's a lot of work. That's hard. They're hard. It's difficult. And they sort of lose the eye of the tiger because they're out there with the porn. Now they pass through the usual developmental milestones where you should be sort of dating and forming and breaking relationships. Now they're in their early to mid 20s and they get obsessed with somebody. They meet somebody and they go, oh, that's the one. That's the one. And well, they date, and then she's not as into it as he is. And so he hangs around to be the friend. And she thinks that's great. He washes my car every week. He does my laundry for me on Sundays. JT is the greatest guy. He comes around, and then I'll hear from JT 2 years later. JT will call Loveline and go, hey man, I found this girl. She's great. She's the one. I love her. But, we dated and she wasn't ready for it yet. She wasn't ready for a real relationship yet. And so I've been, hanging out for the last 2 years and doing her homework for her. And now it's time. Now it's time. I'm like, now it's time. Now, you've been stalking this chick for 2 years. That's stalking behavior. And they don't know they're doing that. They don't understand that, no, stop. This is not going to be a relationship. There's a reason she's not into it. Find somebody else.
Right. So kind of fantasy. We're getting lost in fantasy.
You get obsessed. You get obsessed, and then you start stalking. You don't realize that's what you're doing. You think you're being nice, and she thinks you're being nice too. You're waiting for your moment.
Right. It's interesting. Yeah,
I tell that story all the time, and every woman I know your age always goes, "Oh my God, that's Bill. Oh my God, that's Sam. That's my friend. He's been. I didn't realize." So.
That's funny.
Yeah. What do you think of the NoteFap movement?
What is that? Tell me.
It's like this thing online. It's like a Reddit thing, where dudes are are completely abstinent from masturbation. And
NoteFap?
NoFap, NoFap. There's videos on YouTube everywhere, and it's like, it's like people do it to get over porn addiction. To get over
that actually is kind of a thing that can be helpful for porn addiction.
Yeah, but then they talk about stuff like semen retention, and they're like, this dates back to like,
if you go towards what's it called that stings into the it's a word like mantra or whatever.
Oh, tantric
sex. If you're going towards that, you lost me. I know of no evidence that storing your chi in your seminal vesicles does a goddamn thing. Okay. So, except that, we do know that testosterone levels sort of there's some evidence that it follows kind of a curve where if you're not having enough sexual activity, it's down. And if you're having too much sexual activity, it can drop off too.
Right. What about Chad and I both do like Wim Hof breathing?
Yeah.
And I felt great. I think I've had really good benefits from it. Even though when I talked to him, we had him on the podcast, and like I was like, sometimes he would be talking about, this sounds kind of like word salad, but the actual methodology of what he was preaching, I think works incredible. And
have you swum under ice yet?
No, but we take cold showers.
Yeah. We've done a few ice baths. They're the best. Yeah. I love them so much.
So Corolla's into this stuff too. That's where I first kind of came across it, and he's got me doing cold showers and stuff too. So I do that, and I think it's something to it. There's something to that, even if it's just sort of tuning your mind in a certain way. In terms of the breathing, I don't have a strong opinion about it. Again, I only experienced it through Corolla, and he has done it and feels like he derives some benefit. It makes sense to me that it could be useful.
All right. Well, that's all I needed to hear.
Yeah, Wim Hof, quite a guy.
He's impressive.
I didn't realize he was such a goofball too. He's
is that right? Is he a rager? He likes raging.
I think he crushes brews. I don't know if he does. I think he might be sober now.
Ooh, interesting.
But I don't know if he had an issue. I think he was just like, he's just from Holland and likes to have beers. But I think I heard somewhere that he's not drinking anymore. But yeah,
if he's going for optimal health, alcohol is certainly not part of that, right?
Yeah. Go ahead, JT.
No, go ahead.
Oh, I didn't. I was just saying.
I was going to say, should we answer some? Do you guys want to answer some questions?
Sure.
Yeah.
All right. This will be very similar to the kind of cues you get on Love Line. So,
okay.
Hi, Stokers. Hope you are keeping stoked in these hard times. I've started seeing a new girl. Been keeping it Corona safe, of course. Anyway, we finally started boning, but no matter how much foreplay we do, it hurts her. She hasn't boned much before, but says it's always hurt. Obviously, this is a major bummer, as we both want to share the love, but can't as it hurts her, and I ain't stoked if she ain't. I think she should go and see a doctor, as she always says it's always hurt her. But how do I go about bringing this up without embarrassing her more than she already is? Or should we try and solve the issue other ways?
No, he's right. They should go get a pelvis. First, you want to see what the anatomy is. Make sure there's not. Sometimes there can be a really fibrous hymen that you can't get through, and it needs to be actually surgically kind of ruptured. There's things like that can happen. There can be other kind of anatomical anomalies that can be adding to this. Number one is examination, make sure everything's cool. Number two, we should talk about whether she had any, again, childhood trauma. Childhood sexual trauma is one of the more common causes of unexplained pelvic pain of all sorts.
But is he going to be able to bring that up?
I mean, it depends how close he is to her. It depends. I mean, it's sort of, people understand the topic of sexual trauma these days. I mean, they understand. You don't have to say, get specific, but you just go, you just start with, did you have childhood trauma? I mean, I was emotionally abused as a kid. I had childhood trauma, so people are kind of more apt to talk about it. Now, will she get specific? That's a whole different matter. And then thirdly, the other thing this can commonly be is vaginismus, which is a spasm of the pelvic floor. And there are actually pelvic physical therapists to help women get over that.
Dude, awesome.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Bro, I think this guy got teed up with some solutions right there.
Yeah.
Simple solution.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I was trying to abbreviate absolute back. I don't know if you could. Absolute, that doesn't work.
No.
Absolution.
Fathers of Stoke, I write to you today with great news. I'm out of the friend zone. For the first time in 3 years, the girl I've been crushing on is finally cracking, and I can see things changing fast in our relationship. While this fills me with Stoke, I've presented a new problem, and the problem is myself. This girl is everything I could dream of, crosses all the boxes, finds hot steals on Facebook Marketplace while keeping her humble abode looking ever so dank, longboards, and genuinely has the biggest heart for people. With all that, I stand next to her and lose all self-confidence I've ever had for myself. It's like being with her crushes my ego. I overthink every move, and it's going to be hard to move forward from this point. Do you guys have any ideas of anything I can do to help? Love you guys. You guys have made a huge difference in my life as I tune in weekly to listen to you, Ambassadors of Stoke. Love, Austin.
I will let you guys answer that, because that is an unfortunate situation, I would say. What do you guys think?
I think it's sweet that he admires her so much. I think it's sweet that you admire her so much, but there's a reason she admires you too. Like, you are a cool dude. And I mean, I don't know. I think, and
Let me ask this. Should he be open
without confidence?
Should he be open and honest about what he's experiencing? Should he just pull the cover back and just go, hey, I'm so into you, I'm uncomfortable?
Yeah, you can say that, but I wouldn't go too deep into it. Like, it's like you say, like, hey, I feel very vulnerable around you because I just think you're so wonderful. But then I think sometimes I can do this. Then you keep going in your psychology, and then pretty soon you're both kind of just like in a hole together.
Right. The way I think about it is, don't make it unseemly.
Yeah.
Don't make it so it's unattractive. People like to know you have some competency, so don't lose your competency.
Yeah, you gotta keep your hands on the wheel, but just say, hey, look, it's kind of scary driving on this super fast highway.
There you go. I think that's right. Nice. I knew you guys have answers.
I wonder if this could work, because like they say, like when you speak to the camera or something when you're performing, pretend it's your best friend. I wonder if you could use that method to, like, with her, and like pretend it's your best bud, and sort of try and forge that mentality around her. Do you think that would work?
I think lots of things. I think that's a great piece of advice. I think there's all kinds of these are sort of CBT kinds of little techniques, right? Little kind of tricks to kind of calm your emotions down by changing your cognitive approach. All good. See what he relates to.
Cool.
Yeah. All right. No, this one's too long. What up, Chad and JT and any guests? Boom clap. I'm a 30-year-old out of Austin, Texas, and I need help refilling my Khaleesi Stoke tank. We have been together for almost 2 years and have traveled all around the East Coast, but she constantly talks about one state, Cali. She has been super bummed the past few months as she has been furloughed twice, but she continued to grind and is testing to become a BCBA late August. What's a BCBA?
What's a Khaleesi Stoke?
A Khaleesi, that's a Khal Drago's wife.
No, I know Khaleesi is, but Khaleesi Stoke, does that mean something specific?
Well, our buddy
her
Strider,
Stoke tank.
Or his Khaleesi Stoke tank?
Her Stoke tank, like her happiness meter is low.
And Khaleesi, his girlfriend is his Khaleesi.
Yeah, our buddy Strider calls his girlfriend his Khaleesi, so then they
got it.
say, like,
Okay,
this is my
got
Khaleesi.
it. Okay, got it.
You're hip to the lingo now.
I'm in. I watch Game of Thrones. Don't you worry. Mother of Dragons.
Dude, I would love to see a Dr. Drew character in Game of Thrones breaking down all the psychosexual issues.
Oh yeah.
In that area.
I always tell producers of shows like that, is like, I'd love to do a cameo that's totally out of place. Like some bum or something, you know, it's like, oh, what? Was that him? Just like,
I love you
normal clothes.
Duncan Trussell's new show, which is
how great was
really
that?
good. Yeah.
How great was that?
And that was just a podcast conversation you guys had that got repurposed for the show?
It was a podcast conversation. It was our first meeting together and a little bit of a second meeting. And then they got us in a sound booth and we strung together some interstitial stuff. And it was just one of the most fun things. The aside from Duncan, who is his own genius, the cartoon genius behind it was the guy that does Rick and Morty.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And I didn't know it at the time, but he just gave me some directions and I was like, oh, Jesus, this guy knows exactly what he wants. And I ran into him afterwards. I said, it's such a privilege to work with. It's, when you're around really serious talent and competency, it just, it immediately.
It's the best feeling, right?
Yeah. And I didn't know who he was at the time. I found out later. I just could tell there was like real, oof.
Wow.
He knew what he was doing.
So his girlfriend has a low stoke tank and she's been furloughed, but she's grinding. And he wants to treat her a weekend in her dream state, but he's never been out to the West Coast. Do y'all have any dank tips or ideas for where we should stay or what we should do? Or maybe like a fire city or suburb we should really check out or stand? P.S. She's not the get dressed up and take a million Instagram picture types. She's more a bucket of Dos Equis, slamming down tacos, dancing to the beat of her own drum type. Thanks for any advice, Stoke legends. And yes, we will be masking up.
That's good. That's good information. I like the way he let it set it up for us. So
yeah,
I'm saying, so if she were go out type, it would be like more like Santa Barbara or Malibu or something. But if she just likes, Corona and tacos, Dana Point, San Clemente, San Juan.
Yeah.
Maybe
Bro,
Laguna.
you're doing our hometowns, dude.
Yeah.
That's what's up. Yeah.
Encinitas came to mind.
Yeah.
For some reason, whenever I go to Encinitas, I'm like, this is the quintessential California town. I love Encinitas, but yeah, San Clemente too.
I'm stoking on, or I'm remembering a Mexican restaurant. It's over towards San Clemente. Was it Lucy's El Adobe? Was that?
Oh, El Adobe.
Yeah.
El Adobe in San Juan Capistrano. Yeah. That place is wonderful. And there's a downstairs basement there where like Richard Nixon and other people used to have like their weekly poker games. So it has some.
No way. I did not know that. It's a kind of a dive bar Mexican restaurant, kind of.
Yeah. But great place, really cool environment. That's a great rec.
We used to call it Lucy's.
There might be another place that I'm confusing with.
No, it's El Adobe. El Adobe is it's El Adobe. That's the place. Yeah.
Yeah, that's an awesome place.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then San Clemente Pier is really good. Take her to Fisherman's Wharf.
Ooh, there you go.
Although I heard that they get their my friend used to work there and said they get their fish from like Ralph's or something.
That's really funny.
But you would never know eating there. I guess the environment just makes you feel like it's fresh fish. And then Balboa, Newport Beach, like you take her to the island there and you go on the Ferris wheel. I don't know if
that's a little heady though. Don't you think it gets a little fancy down there? I was thinking more like
that's true. I was
thinking if you want to go Dana Point, maybe that sort of splits the difference, doesn't it?
Yeah, you know the environment.
I grew up in Laguna essentially.
Oh really?
Yeah, I told you I would have been Chad if I'd been on the path I was on. I loved it down there. Oh my God, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
So what gets you stoked, Dr. Drew?
Those beach cities get me stoked. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I'm also in love with, strangely though, I'm also in love with New York City. And so I have sort of a split love for some of these environments. I literally am in love, physically I'm in love with New York City. I just get so much out of being there. And we're going back next week. I want to see what's going on because we're hearing all kinds of terrible stories about how the corona has affected things and the riots and the police standing down. So we're going to see what's going on.
Will you take the vaccine?
I just got a note from Moderna yesterday. I've signed up to be in the phase 3 trial. So I can't get the vaccine fast enough. I can't get it fast enough. And B, I want to be a part of pushing the science forward. So I'm happy to be a human subject. So I may be getting that Moderna vaccine in the next few weeks. We'll see.
Do you have an idea of when, if it works, of when it will be available?
I think there'll be 2 available for healthcare providers by November. And then I started thinking about it and I thought, oh, wait a minute. One thing about Donald Trump is he never disappoints. He's always the same in everything he does. And I thought, Donald Trump may push this through in some sort of weird way before the election, and then have the army distribute it like in late October to have a huge like week-long party leading up to election day. Doesn't that sound like Trump? And I thought, I got a feeling something like that might happen. Be weird if it did, but just kind of that's the only other thought I had. Otherwise, it's going to be the new year when everybody gets it.
Right.
Yeah. It's going to be a weird, like a weird sort of I wonder if it's gonna be like a holiday when the vaccine becomes available.
Well, that's what I was thinking, that we'd have like a week-long rager.
Yeah.
We always talk about the Matrix 2, where they just have that wild dance party before Zion gets invaded by the bots. Like just gonna be skin on skin everywhere.
Naked.
It could be cool. It's a great excuse to party. Why not?
Yeah. Are you gonna what benefits do you see coming from like our culture and world after we get through this?
Well, telemedicine is here. That's good for me because I'm really good at that. And so I might do more of that. I think healthcare costs will actually go down because there are going to be more stuff going on across state lines. I think the drug costs are going to go down because of some of the executive orders that I think are going to go through. I think people will appreciate things a lot more, everything. I think we're going to be doing a lot more from home, a lot more electronically, a lot less, in cubicles. I don't know. It's hard to tell. You can tell that things are changing rapidly because of all this, because we've had to, and things we might have resisted doing, or not even thought to do, we're suddenly doing, and some of the stuff we'll keep doing.
Yeah.
Right on.
I think when this thing hit, I started looking at I'd done a lot of study on the 1918 flu. And one of the instincts I had was that the lockdown of the 1918 flu might have led to some of the social exuberance of the roaring 20s. And it made me think that we might get into a phase for a couple of years where people are just so happy to be social that they're just out in it all the time, in restaurants, doing stuff.
I've been more fired up on my Hawaiian shirts. I've been rocking them more.
Nice.
That's the sign of my exuberance.
That makes perfect sense. Maybe I'm going to take that up.
Yeah.
I look to you guys.
Convertible.
I look to you guys for guidance. I'm starting to do some kettlebell workouts now.
Yes.
I'm gonna start wearing the Hawaiian shirts more. I'm in.
Yeah, let's get functional. Let's get compound. Let's get metabolic with your workouts, Dr. G. I mean, you got pipes on you, dude. You have huge arms. Yeah.
And I can't believe that that's just genetic. I mean, you gotta be throwing around some steel.
I do throw on steel because I love it. I do about 30 to 45 minutes of weightlifting every day, or at least 5 days a week. I just do that. But I don't focus on my arms. I'll do 6 sets max of tricep and bicep max.
Right.
And that's it.
All right. I don't quite believe you, but I trust you.
I swear to God. But now here's the part. There's two. As long as we're getting to my physiology, because my shoulders are fucked up because I'm old. Already my arms take over every lift, right? So I'm working arms whether I want to or not because they just take over every lift. And it used to be primarily shoulder that took over, but now my shoulders are kind of fucked up. So I'm not sure quite. The arms are still take a lot of it, but I'm trying to get other things engaged to work around the shoulder.
Right on. Yeah. Well, let's lift sometime, Dr. Drew.
All right, man. Where do you do it?
I've been doing it in my backyard right now, but we can find a neutral.
Well, I see all those Instagrams. Where is that?
That's my mom's house and then my buddy's house in LA. Those are like my 2 main lifting.
See, I can't. In reality, I can't do kettlebells because I can't do anything over my head.
Right.
It's just my shoulder. This is it. This is the extent of my overhead motion.
Right. Okay. So, we'll cater the workout to our
All right.
Our just
done. Done.
Yeah.
Bring the assault bike.
Yeah, that thing's killer.
Yeah.
Where are you surfing now, Chad?
Me? I've been mostly hitting El Puerto. Sometimes I hit the pier.
The San Clemente pier. or Huntington Pier?
No, Manhattan Beach. 'Cause
Oh,
I'm in Culver.
oh. I
Yeah,
always
yeah,
thought
yeah.
you were. Oh, so you're in Culver City. I used to,
Yeah.
Loveline we used to do out of Culver City every day.
Oh,
Every day.
really?
Yeah.
I love it here.
If you go to, we were on just off Higuera and Washington.
Mm,
You know where the sort of the Helms Bakery stuff is, and
right.
Dad's just
I'm
down the
near.
street from that. Yeah.
I'm near there. But yeah, I've been. I don't know. When we were in San Clemente for those videos and stuff, I hit T Street a lot. Or that's sort of
There
like
was a hell of
whenever
a
I go
swell,
San.
like 3
Yeah.
weeks ago, whatever that was, a month ago.
Oh, dude, 4th
Yeah.
of July was insane. You can't
Yeah.
swim out into the water.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The shore break was so intense.
Yeah, but I'll go to Malibu and stuff sometimes. But I mean, they're all so crowded. That's the thing about California. I mean, there's just, especially now, there's so many people in the water.
It's interesting.
But you know, still getting.
So do you come in as a regular, or they treat you like a tourist?
Manhattan. No, I people. I mean, there's so many people that it's like there's a lot of people I don't know, but
Yeah.
there are some familiar faces out there, and yeah, I think with a place like Manhattan Beach too. I mean, if you know what you're doing, then people.
Yeah.
No one's
Leave you alone. Yeah.
Yeah, like in college, I would surf Santa Cruz, and it's they're a lot more. The localism is a lot heavier there, and they'll bash some dudes if they don't know what they're doing. So, yeah, but it's fun. It's been good to get
Dr.
out.
Drew.
Yeah, yeah. So pumped to have you on. This has been great.
Yeah,
This
thank you
was-
for coming on.
I'm maximally stoked, guys.
Dude, stoked to talk to you.
I'm
Yeah.
stoked to be here.
Nice.
We'll
We'll have you back. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we'll do an Instagram workout too one of these days in Culver City.
Yeah.
Or no, you're not. You're in. Where are you again, JT?
I'm mobile, but I'm gonna be in San Clemente for the next month. But
Yeah.
I mean, you say the word, I'll come up. I'll bring all the equipment we need. Chad will come with the assault bike, and we'll throw down a compound metabolic,
Nice.
high caloric workout.
I'm in.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Put the
I'm-
assault bike in the truck.
I'm seeing my computer battery. I've got one of these Air computers, and so I couldn't plug my power in at the same time as mic and camera and everything else. So my computer is like at 3%. It's about to die. So I got to
Perfect
wrap
time
this
to say
thing up.
goodbye. Yeah.
Cool. Well,
You
so
were-
great to
guys.
have you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Great to be here. Great. Glad we got to get to know you guys. So delighted
Yeah.
with everything you're doing out there to raise awareness, and keep doing your stuff, both with the masks and maybe we can get something at a city. LA County Board of Supervisors need a little straightening out. So maybe you guys could help out there.
What do they need? What do we need to straighten them out with?
Let me think about it. There's a lot of fighting going on at the LA County Board of Supervisors. I think again, it's the health messaging thing. That Barbara Ferrara, they have her giving messages, and it's just not working. And so I don't know. Maybe Chad
Is it
and
all
JT.
the flip flopping? Is it like they're like,
The
hey, we're
flip flopping and the negativity and the threats of lockdown, and I mean, they're threatening to close off. Well, they have closed all the ragers, and so it's hurting people, and they're not wearing masks. So they should be giving better messaging, clearer messaging about mask wearing,
Right.
and less about threatening to shut everybody down.
Yeah.
So
Well, hit us with a list of things we should tackle, and
all right,
we'll get on the case.
all right,
For
done
sure.
and done. Can't wait.
All right. Later, Dr. Drew.
All right, guys, see you soon.
Have a good
Later.
one.
Thanks. Bye.